Some big news in the professional wrestling world all over, really now, the media. This Vince McMahon story, we spoke a couple weeks about the initial report from the Wall Street Journal, and they now have a follow-up reporting that payouts totaling more than $12 million over the past 16 years were made with 4 women, all previously affiliated with the WWE, in exchange for their silence about prior relationships with Vince McMahon. And when we have a story like this, we always go to the best, and that's Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer newsletter. And Dave joins us right now. Dave, as always, we appreciate your time. We know you're a busy guy. First, from people that you have spoken with, Dave, what's the reaction in the company after this latest bombshell?
Oh, man, that's tough. I don't think it's not shocking. I mean, because, these rumors have gone on for forever. The size of the payoff was a big surprise, especially a $7.5 million payoff to a woman who was there in the early 2000s, and the allegation that he forced himself on her for oral sex. That was a real tough one. That one, was a little more detailed than people expected. The show, they're taping a show in Fort Worth today. Vince is there. They're acting like nothing's wrong. They send a little memo to everyone about it. But it's a sleazy business, and I think that that's part of it. But yeah, no, I mean, there are definitely people that are disgusted too. I mean, the people have expressed that to me today. Yeah.
Has he, because as you said, rumors of this type of behavior and some of his business practices and the way that he's treated wrestlers over the years has been called into question for a long time. Is he simply able to get away with this because of how financially successful and how important he is personally to the financial success of the WWE? Is it that simple?
Well, he owns the company, and because of that, and because he's always been the guy in wrestling, you don't challenge him because you lose your employment, and everybody wants their job. Up until the last couple of years, for most of the last 20 years, there's been nowhere else to go to make a living, really, in wrestling. Unless you're a few elite guys that could go to Japan or make big money in another company. But most people, you had to pretty much work in WWE to make good money in this business. So nobody wants to say anything. And when you have, absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's the story of Vince McMahon.
Dave Meltzer is with us here on Cattles and Ramie, Sactown Sports 1140. Dave, of course, from the Wrestling Observer newsletter. I want to go back to that $7.5 million deal, Dave, that you just brought up. Part of the report, again, former wrestler alleged McMahon coerced her into a sexual act before she was demoted and ultimately had her contract expire. Is that the one allegation in payment that could be enough to cost Vince more than he might have anticipated to cost him in the long run here?
Well, I mean, the amount that he paid her off, and it was interesting that he paid her off in 2018, not in 2005.
Yep.
But that's a large amount of money. I mean, that blew people away. I mean, people did not, $1 million wouldn't have fazed people. Obviously, the paralegal got $3 million, which shocked a lot of people. $7.5 million is a tremendous amount of money. So I think that everybody's, kind of going like, what did she have? And there was kind of this thing like the forced oral sex is a pretty bad one.
Yeah.
The amount of money, it's his money, it's not company money, so that's a questionable one. But now you're getting into the demotion, and in so many cases, I mean, there's the question becomes he's using a lot of these women. There's a casting couch mentality, using his power so the women would get promoted because of it, and that should get him, but it's Vince McMahon, and it probably won't. The smoking gun to me is still the raising the women's salary. There was the paralegal from 100, and I guess that they wanted Vince recommended raising it from 100 to 300,000, and so he was kind of told that that's going to look really suspicious, so he raised it to 200,000. And the other thing about that woman that was so interesting is she never applied for a job in WWE, which I did not know. That he met her at a hotel and then offered her the job, to come to WWE as opposed to someone who applied for a job. So, and then, you have this. So, It's really, really questionable. I mean, I read it and I go like, how can he survive? But somehow he's got 80% of the voting shares. It was interesting that a member of the board of directors, Connor Schell, quit yesterday.
Yep.
Or the day before yesterday. And I thought that was, right before this story broke. And there were people, I knew the story was breaking last night, so I know people knew, and I'm presuming that the board knew, ahead of time as well, because they asked questions. So that is also a very intriguing part of the story.
So what can be done at this point? If what we're hearing is true, and we have no reason to believe it's not, you mentioned the board of directors. Can Vince McMahon somehow, some way be ousted, or is he too important to the WWE?
Well, you can always be ousted. There's always ways. I think that the board of directors, it's so hard for me to believe that they would try to get him out. They could not vote him out because, again, he's got 80% of the voting shares. There could be pressure from outside forces. Obviously there's morals clauses in the contract with both NBCU and with Fox. So if those people said, like, you know what, this is a little too heavy to keep your show on the air, we can, But the thing is there's going to be a fear of doing that because, number one, there's this belief, and I don't know if it's true or not because it's never been tested, that without Vince McMahon, this company collapses. And so because of that, does NBC, Universal, and Fox, which have to devote major prime time to this guy, and he draws them big ratings. Smackdown is number one or number two in the key demo on most Friday nights. Raw, unless it's football season, is almost always number one on cable on Monday nights. So, he's the architect of that. But at some point, will there be a backlash? And if there's a backlash which would cost them television deals, I think he would have to resign at that point. But he's pretty defiant, and it's going to be it will be very interesting. When there's an investigation going on, and we have to wait until the end of the investigation, and then at that point they say that they will answer questions. Then we will see if they will actually answer questions. Then.
Last one for you, Dave, and we got about a minute here. Again, thank you for your time. I find it interesting, there are stories out there the last few weeks that Triple H has spoken to the locker room along with Stephanie the last time they spoke with them. And, he's told the roster that he's back full-time. Could you see him taking over the wrestling side of the company now that it looks like he's getting a little bit more involved if Vince was forced to step away?
Yeah, it's possible, but, it's an interesting one because he is considered a failure because of NXT,
right.
Getting beat by AEW and him not being able to the job that his job was to make sure AEW died, and they are very alive right now, and it was NXT that actually ended up having to move nights. And also, he had a heart attack.
Yep.
And and running that company is a very stressful job. So I think that if his health were to be okay, he would still be the guy, the favorite to get that spot. But the issue is his health. And even before, again, before he had the heart attack, he pretty much got demoted and taken. NXT got moved kind of into a totally different direction than he wanted to take it right before the heart attack. So it's but yeah, the thing is, there's like nobody else. So right now, I guess in theory, Bruce Pritchard is number two, but I don't know. Bruce is in his 60s as well. I don't, of course, Vince is older, but I don't know that Bruce is the guy to be in that powerful a position. And Paul Levesque was trained by Vince to be in that position, so I guess he's the favorite, yeah.
Dave, thank you again for your time. Enjoy your weekend, and we always appreciate to have you on when we have these big stories. Appreciate you.
Okay, cool.
Thank you. There goes Dave Meltzer, Wrestling Observer Newsletter.